Welcome to the Show Day podcast. Today is July 27th, 2019. Last night we had 4 shows across the DCI landscape. We had 2 shows that featured world-class scores, 2 shows that featured open-class scores. Tonight, Coors will travel to Atlanta for the second regional of the season, the DCI Southeastern Championship. 2 weeks from today, the season's over. So, really, Coors are starting to put their finishing touches on their 2019 productions and are really cleaning everything down to all the nitty gritty and everything to make sure those shows are perfect for the next 2 weeks. So, I'll cover last night's scores and take a look ahead to today. So, thank you for watching. Last night, the first of 4 shows and the one with the most happening in it, if you want to say that, is the Masters of the Summer Music Games in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We had 9 world-class scorers in attendance: the Blue Devils, Blue Coats, Santa Clara Vanguard, Carolina Crown, the Boston Crusaders, the Cavaliers, Blue Stars, the Cadets, and Music City. If you're looking at this saying, why is Music City there at a show with top 10 cores? That's because Music City always is at this show because it's in their home state, etc. Now let's break down this recap. And as we've seen, when we have all these top cores at these events, that is, these recaps do get a bit interesting. So starting in general effect, Blue Coats with a 37.95, up a 10th on the Blue Devils. Blue Devils score 37.85. So those two are about the same margin they've been in general effect, which is very close. Santa Clara Vanguard finishes 3rd there. Boston jumps up to 4th. Cavaliers are 5th. Crown struggling in general effect, back down in 6th. 7th in general effect goes to the Cadets. 8th, the Blue Stars, and 9th, Music City. Visual, really breaking down a lot here. Visual proficiency, Blue Devils, they come out on top at an 18.8. An 18.8, put that into perspective, I guess you can say that's almost to a 19, and that's out of 20. So very high score. Even if you look at their general effect totals, I mean, the Blue Coats are breaking 19 there. So really high scores for these scores right now. After the Blue Devils in visual proficiency, you've got Vanguard in 2nd, Blue Coats back in 3rd, Cavaliers jump up to 4th, Crown 5th, Boston 6th, and then Blue Stars, Cadets, Music City. Analysis, we see Boston, the Cavaliers go above Crown there, and then in color guard, really it gets a bit tricky. You've got Boston in 1st and an 18.7, then the Blue Devils, Blue Coats, Santa Clara Vanguard, Blue Stars. Then you jump back up to Crown, and then in 7th is the Cavaliers. They're struggling a little bit in color guard. When we look at the overall visual scores, 28.2 for the Blue Devils, 27.85 for the Blue Coats. So a pretty wide margin there. A few tenths separating the Blue Devils and Blue Coats, which gives the Blue Devils this overall lead after looking at the general effect and visual captions. Vanguard only a 10th back of the Blue Coats in visual. 4th place goes to the Boston Crusaders, in large part due to that color guard score. 5th to the Cavaliers, 6th to Carolina Crown, 7th Blue Stars, 8th Cadets, 9th Music City. And then when we look at music's the thing that Crown is kind of getting saved in, I guess you could say that. They are really struggling in general effect and visual, finishing 6th in both of those captions. And then when we go to music, they do improve, though. You look at brass first. Of course, Crown is very good in brass at 18.75 last night to 2nd place Blue Devils, 18.6. Blue Coats 3rd, Vanguard 4th, Cavaliers in 5th, Boston in 6th, Blue Stars, Cadets, Music City. Music analysis, you have the Blue Coats in 1st, Carolina Crown in 2nd, 3rd place to Santa Clara Vanguard, 4th to the Blue Devils, 5th to the Boston Crusaders, then the Cavaliers, Blue Stars, Cadets, Music City. And then when we look at percussion, of course, Vanguard on top there, a few tenths actually. you've got an 18.5 to an 18.25, so a pretty wide margin between them and the Bluecoats, who finished second in percussion. Carolina Crown in third, fourth to the Blue Devils, fifth to the Cadets, sixth to the Cavaliers, seventh the Blue Stars, eighth the Boston Crusaders. So they just kind of keep sinking in percussion. Definitely need to improve upon that in the coming weeks. And then Music City down in ninth. Overall music scores, these get interesting. You've got Carolina Crown in first at 27.65. Carolina Crown wins music. Very interesting. Second goes to Santa Clara Vanguard, which they're in a situation where it's a half of a tenth of a tenth of a point kind of thing here. So really tight between those two, a 27.65 to a 27.625, and actually throw the Bluecoats in there too. Bluecoats Vanguard tie. Blue Devils in fourth. Cavaliers finished fifth in music, sixth to the Boston Crusaders, seventh the Cadets, eighth to the Blue Stars, ninth to Music City. Overall scores, Blue Devils finish on top, first time this season, head-to-head with the Bluecoats, at a 93.5. Bluecoats suffer their first loss of the season, a 93.425. Santa Clara Vanguard in third, a 92.575, about a point margin between Blue Devils and Vanguard, so still very close at the top. Then the next three cores, you've got 4 through 6. Crown at a 90.075, Boston at an 89.975, and the Cavaliers at an 89.5. Only about a half of a point separating Crown to the Cavaliers. So really, any of those cores can finish fourth. Any of those cores can finish sixth right now as it stands. Blue Stars in seventh at 86.75. Cadets close in a bit at an 86.05. And Music City in ninth, a 73.05. The big thing at this one, just one other thing, and that is we have 5 sub-captions that are, or just overall captions that are awarded at championships. A different core won each of the 5. You've got Vanguard in percussion, you've got Crown in brass, Boston color guard, Blue Devils in visual, and the Bluecoats in general effects. So just very, and I kind of called this last week. I said this season is shaping up to be so competitive that I think we could see something like that, and it sure is shaping up to be such a thing. The second event last night on the DCI schedule was DCI Birmingham in Trussville, Alabama. Not a whole lot of competition at the top here, but there are some really good battles farther down here. Blue Knights, they were the only corps in attendance here that is a finalist, that really has any chance at finals. So, really, they are a mile ahead of everybody else, and then there's kind of some very interesting competition below them. So let's look at general effect first. You've got the Blue Knights at a 35.1, a pretty good score right now, up in that top 9, top 8, top 7, depending on the night kind of thing with them. Second place in general effect, and this is the first really good battle, and that's the Colts versus Pacific Crest. Second in general effect goes to the Colts at a 32.2, Pacific Crest at a 31.9, just 0.3 there. This next battle is the Madison Scouts and the Troopers. Troopers top the Madison Scouts in general effect, a 30.8 to Madison's 30.4, a pretty big margin there, 0.4. And then this next one, and this isn't a huge battle, but it still is something worth looking at, and this is Genesis and Jersey Surf. Genesis at a 29.1 in general effect, Jersey Surf a 28.5. When we move over to visual proficiency first, I just want to focus on these few battles that I've pointed out. So visual proficiency, Pacific Crest in second, a 16 even to the Colts 15.8. Then you've got the Troopers Madison Scouts battle, Troopers a 15.4 to the Madison Scouts 15.3. Genesis Jersey Surf, not a huge battle occurring between those two in proficiency and analysis, so I'll skip to them, or skip them until color guard, I should say. When we look at visual analysis, a good number for the Blue Knights there, a 17.7, definitely good for them. Colts top Pacific Crest there by 0.3. Troopers top Madison Scouts by 0.2. and then Genesis Surf, and then over in Color Guard, Blue Knights have struggled a bit in Color Guard, a 17.1 last night. Colts in second, a 15.7, just a tenth above Pacific Crest. And then Madison in fourth, Genesis actually topping the Troopers in the Color Guard subcaption, and then Jersey Surf in seventh, actually ranking above the Troopers in the achievement area in the Color Guard caption. When we look at the overall visual totals, you've got the Blue Knights in first, a 26.1, Colts in second, a 24.1, Pacific Crest in third, a 24, even very tight. Between those two, Madison and the Troopers tie at 22.95. This is not too far back at a 22.6, and Jersey Surf in seventh at 21.9. And then moving over to music, and this does get somewhat interesting as well when we look at really everybody from Colts down to the Troopers, particularly in that Pacific Crest Madison Scouts Troopers range. So looking at brass first, you've got Blue Knights on top. They've been very good in music. I will give that to them. In brass, a 17.7, very good score. Colts coming within a point of them, a 16.8, good score there. Pacific Crest, a 16.6. For third, Madison in fourth, a 16.5. Troopers in fifth, a 15.3. Big drop-off between Madison and the Troopers there. Genesis 2/10 back of the Troopers, and Jersey Surf in seventh, a 14.6. Music analysis, you have Pacific Crest above the Colts there, 16.3 to a 16 even. Troopers above Madison, a 15.2 to a 14.8. Genesis 6th, Jersey Surf 7th. And one thing I missed there at the top is Blue Knights, a 17.8. I've been saying how they have some good numbers on here. That is, I believe, is one of their best. And then when we look at percussion, this does the Blue Knights in El Dorado, Kansas. I'm jumping back about 2 weeks now to July 15th. Were so good in percussion. They beat the Cadets. They beat a bunch of corps that are really good. They came very close to Vanguard and the Blue Devils. It seems like they've kind of fallen off from that though, because now at a 17 even, that may seem like a high number out of 20, but really when we're comparing that to corps in their competitive area, it is not too high of a score. So I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe it was just an inflated score one night, but definitely something happened in that percussion caption for the Blue Knights. Moving down the line, then, you've got the Colts at a 15.9. Their percussion showed last week in San Antonio that they are finalist worthy. They finished 12th there in that subcaption. Can they do that again today? We'll have to watch and see. Madison, they finished third in percussion over Pacific Crest. It's only half of a tenth of a point, though, so very tight. Troopers in fifth, Surf actually topping Genesis in percussion. Overall music, Colts and Pacific Crest tie at 24.35. Madison tops the Troopers, and actually Surf doing well there in large part due to that percussion subcaption where you have a 14.5 to a 13.8. Surf actually jumping Genesis in music, good for them. Overall totals, 87.45 for the Blue Knights, 80.65 for the Colts, 80.25 for Pacific Crest. Not going to be surprised for Pacific Crest to jump the Colts. Madison Scouts, a 76.925. They jump back over the Troopers at a 76.6. That's the Troopers score. 73.3 for Genesis and a 72.05 for Jersey Surf. So now shifting gears, we look at the world class side of things there, now looking at the open class side of things. And we had two extremely interesting events last night that had only open class scorers in attendance. The first of those is Drums Along the Mississippi in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And I kind of walked through this in a significant fashion yesterday on the podcast, in kind of predicting where I thought everything would line up. And I'll be honest, I wasn't that close. Definitely room for improvement in my prediction skills, but I think what I thought was going to happen is it was going to be very tight competition, especially 2 through 5, and it somewhat shaped up to be that way. Maybe not as much as I thought, but definitely in somewhat of the the way I thought it would be. So, starting at the top here, we'll just starting general effect. I knew Gold would be very good. They were good. I knew they would beat the field and everything, and they pretty much did. Looking at general effect, 29.9 for them. Good score, almost to 30. Second place, River City Rhythm, a 26.9. Louisiana Stars in 30, 26.4. Guardians in fourth, a drop off between Louisiana Stars and the Guardians. Guardians at 24.8 and Shadow at 24.5. I honestly thought Shadow would be above the Guardians. I thought Louisiana Stars would be above River City Rhythm. That's not how it's shaped up to be, but it is very tight between River City Rhythm, Louisiana Stars, and Guardians. Shadow, I definitely expected more from, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Moving over to visual proficiency, I'm just going to skip Gold for now because they're ahead of everybody. Not a lot to talk about when we're looking at everybody else. So visual proficiency, Guardians second, Louisiana Stars third, River City Rhythm fourth. I'm also going to skip Shadow because they're fifth and everything in visual. Visual analysis, you've got Guardians second, River City Rhythm third, and Louisiana Stars fourth. And then in color guard, I'm going to throw Gold in here real quick because they're at a 14 even in guard. It's a little bit of a low score, and River City Rhythm's closing in on them at a 13.7, just 0.3 there. Louisiana Stars in third at 13.1, Guardians in fourth, and Shadow in fifth. Overall visual, Guardians doing well there at 20.55 for second, Louisiana Stars third, River City Rhythm in fourth. And then in music, very tight again when we look at these scores. Looking at brass first, you've got Gold on top by a significant margin. Then you have Louisiana Stars at a 13.4. They're 0.4 above the Guardians, and then River City Rhythm in fourth. Moving over to analysis then, kind of that same thing, but Louisiana Stars go fourth. So you got River City Rhythm in second, Guardians in third, Louisiana Stars in fourth, 2/3 separating each of them. And then in percussion, you see Gold come out on top by 0.4 over River City Rhythm. Third place in percussion goes to the Guardians, fourth to Shadow, and fifth to the Louisiana Stars here. So Shadow actually jumping Louisiana Stars there. Overall music totals, you've got Gold at 21.25. Guardians actually placing second there. So the Guardians are doing good other than that general effect caption that they're struggling a little bit in. So Guardians second at 19.65. Third in music, 19.6 to River City Rhythm. Fourth, Louisiana Stars. Fifth to Shadow. And then when we look at the overall scores, Gold is 73.55. They do come down in score from what they were putting up when they were in that Rocky Mountain region tour thing they were doing, those two shows, one in Salt Lake City, one in Denver. So they do come down a little bit, but still a pretty good score. I think them coming down, though, definitely makes the fight for the Open Class Championship much more intense with them and the Spartans, a core I'll talk about in a minute. A significant margin then. Gold to River City Rhythm. River City Rhythm a 66.4. Then Louisiana Stars is 65.6. 0.8 between the two of them. And then 0.6 back to the Guardians. So not extremely tight, but still only 1.4 separating the three of them. And then when we look at Shadow, it is 60.9 in fifth. I honestly thought they would jump the Guardians because they put up a really good score on Friday, the July 12th. Of a 57, and to gain only about 3 points since then is a bit of a disappointment, I'm sure, and I hope that they can keep kind of gaining, but if they don't, they might be stuck down there in 10th, 11th, 12th once again this season. The final show last night, a lot of drum corps last night, so final one, Music on the Mountain in Sheffield, Pennsylvania. Looking at the, first, these are those corps that have been touring the Northeast, plus you add in the Raiders, so seven open class corps here. Looking at general effect first, you've got Spartans and Legends tied at a 29.5, very, very close between the two of them, obviously the closest you can get. Southwind in third, 7th Regiment in fourth, Heatwave 5th, Raiders 6th, Lace Stentor 7th. Moving into the visual caption, I'm going to point out some things of competitive interest. First up at the top, you've got, well, really, there's a few battles here. So first, you've got Spartans and Legends. Visual, they're not really close. Spartans are in another, are a mile ahead of the Legends when we look at the visual subcaption, or visual overall caption. They just are. I mean, Spartans, 8/10 above in visual proficiency, 7/10 above in visual analysis, 4/10 above in color guard, and that's almost a point, 9.5/10 the Spartans above the Legends in visual. If the Legends could close a bit of that, definitely they would get right back in the fight for the Open Class Championship. But where it stands right now, Spartans are just so good in visual that really the Legends can't close very far or very close to the Spartans. Then this next two, which there's not a lot of competition between the two. Really, all threes for Southwind, all four for 7th Regiment until we get over to music. So those two are a battle worth watching. There are another two corps that are going to fit into that River City Rhythm Guardians, Louisiana Stars, that area. And then you've got Heatwave Raiders, like Centaurs. And this is going to be the battle for the last Open Class finalist slot. And right now, I think it's between the Raiders and Heatwave. When we look in visual proficiency, you've got like Centaurs 5th, Raiders 6th, Heatwave 7th. Analysis, Raiders, Heatwave, Lace Centaurs, Color Guard, Raiders, Lace Centaurs, Heatwave. So very close between those three in visual. You've got Raiders at 17.75. They do end up pretty far ahead, but when we're looking at those individual caption scores, they are pretty close. 6th to Heatwave and 7th to the Lace Centaurs. Then looking in the music caption, really, Spartans again just on top, other than that percussion caption where they really just can't catch up to the Legends. Legends doing very good in percussion, a 15.8 to a 15.1. Southwind and 7th Regiment, they have been getting pretty close in music. Last night, though, not showing that. You've got Southwind at 21.4 in music and 7th Regiment at 20.6, and actually jumping back up to the top just for a second, Legends at 22.6, Spartans a 22.5, so only a 10th between those two. So those top four are split in those two battles, I guess you could say. Really, Southwind, 7th Regiment, though, Southwind distancing themselves a bit from 7th Regiment and really moving into this next area and definitely solidifying a spot in the top 5 in Open Class. And then when we look at Heatwave, Raiders, Lace Centaurs, once again, you've got in brass, you've got Heatwave in 5th, Lace Centaurs in 6th, Raiders 7th. Analysis, Heatwave, Raiders, Lace Centaurs, percussion, Raiders, Heatwave, Lace Centaurs. So overall music, then you've got Heatwave an 18.15, Raiders a 17.7, and Lace Centaurs a 15.85. Overall scores on the night, you've got the Spartans on top at a 74.45, Legends a 73.6, Southwind a 69.4, 7th Regiment a 67.55, Heatwave in 5th a 57.95, and Raiders in 6th a 57.55, and Lace Centaurs in 7th a 54 even. So as I said earlier, today is the second regional of the season, the DCI Southeastern Championship in Atlanta, Georgia, presented by Lone Star Percussion. Watch live on Flow Marching. Here's the schedule for the day, all times, Eastern Time, 1:30, Welcome National Anthem. Then we've got a South Sport performance by Sonus Brass Theater, 2 all-age class performances by Carolina Gold and the Atlanta Corvettes. Then we'll jump into the world-class action. First, the Seattle Cascades, Jersey Surf Music City Genesis Group. Will Genesis come out on top of Music City once again? Could we see Jersey Surf maybe even pass up Music City? Definitely questions worth considering tonight. And then we've got Troopers, Pacific Crest, and the Madison Scouts. Pacific Crest will come out on top of this group as we saw last night, but how will Madison and the Troopers end up? Definitely a battle worth watching. 4:30 is going to be a 20-minute intermission. Action will resume at 4:50 with the Colts, Spirit of Atlanta, and the Academy. Spirit needs to come out on the top of this group if they still want to contend for finals. Same, I guess you could say, for the Academy and Colts, but really, the Academy and Colts are a little farther back. Spirit's kind of been sticking with Phantom at an 82 this week, and the Academy's kind of not been able to break 80 yet, and same with the Colts. Oh, actually, Colts broke 80 last night, but just last night, so there's kind of my point proving itself. So I think Spirit is the only core out of those three that still has a chance to make finals, but I mean, of course, you could add changes and stuff into those shows that could be done, but Spirit going to be in contention later today for that 12th spot, and other cores in contention, Crossman and Phantom Regiment. They go on at 541 and 558. I would not be surprised for Spirit to finish 12th today, with this being kind of their home show and how they've been doing competitively this week. I don't think that's how it ends up at the end, but I think tonight definitely that is a possibility. And then the other core on here is the Mandarins. I just didn't talk about them in that finalist contention thing because they defeated the Cadets earlier this week, and really the top 10 are not in jeopardy of missing finals. After the Mandarins, we'll have a 50-minute intermission at 6:32. And then action will pick back up at 7:22 with the Blue Stars, Blue Knights, and the Cadets. Cadets definitely would want to gain on the Blue Stars and Blue Knights for tonight and try not to lose to the Mandarins once again. Blue Knights and Blue Stars, again, a very intriguing battle there. Carolina Crown, the Boston Crusaders, and the Cavaliers is that next group. I think those three are so close. I have no idea how they're going to finish tonight. I mean, it could very well be Cavaliers, Boston Crown. Really, the only thing saving Crown right now in the recaps is that music total and them winning music last night. Blue Devils, Blue Coats, Vanguard, of course. Then the final group of competitors tonight, and Blue Coats, Blue Devils once again very tight last night. Can it be extremely tight once again tonight? After Vanguard's performance, we'll have an encore by Spirit of Atlanta, and then scores will be announced at 10:12. The second show tonight is Drum Corps Mid-America in Oskaloosa, Iowa. We have 6 open class cores here. We have the same 5 from Cape Girardeau last night, plus adding in the Colt Cadets. So everything we saw last night, will it repeat itself tonight? Will we see some mixing up, plus throwing the Colt Cadets in here? Probably their closest competition is Shadow. So just some of those things worth watching tonight in Oskaloosa. And the final event tonight is the Legends Drum Corps Invitational in White Lake, Michigan. You've got 8 cores here, 7 open class cores, plus an all-age class performance by the Columbus Saints from Columbus, Ohio, DCA group. Those 7 open class groups, same ones that were in Sheffield last night. So Spartans, Legends, again, a battle worth watching. And then also looking at 7th Regiment, can they close it on Southwind and all? And again, that battle between the Raiders, Heatwave, and Les Stentors for that final open class finalist berth. Now, that was the final DCI show. We do have one DCA show tonight, and it's really one of the premier events of the season next to World Championships. The Parade of Champions in Peckville, Pennsylvania. You got Fusion Corps, Hawthorne Caballeros, Bushwhackers, Reading Buccaneers, White Sabres, Connecticut Hurricanes, Cincinnati Tradition, and the Skyliners in attendance. You can watch this event live on Box 5 Media. They do a variety of different marching band events in the fall. I know they do UIL every year. They did US Bands last year. So if you'd like to go and watch that on the Box 5 Media later tonight, just go to their website. There are like instructions there to how to buy the live stream. So big event tonight for DCA. I'll definitely be covering this. I don't think I'm going to cover it tomorrow. I believe I'm going to wait till Monday, as I did last week, to cover this event again and talk about the scores. But definitely very interesting things, especially between Reading and Hawthorne, and that middle group where you got Fusion, Bushwhackers, White Sabres, Hurricanes, maybe Cincinnati Tradition there as well. So a big event tonight on the DCA side of things in Peckville. So thank you for watching the podcast today. Just a few things. Make sure to visit my website, drumcorpscentral.weebly.com, for all the latest updates from the DCI and DCA Summer Tours, scores, schedules, leaderboards, and more, because I'll be found on my own personal website about all things drum corps. Make sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Drum Corps Geek, and subscribe to the Show Day podcast on YouTube, where this podcast and more will be posted. Finally, leave your thoughts in the comment sections, questions, input, comments, etc. would all be greatly appreciated. Tonight, a big night in the drum corps world, and tomorrow I'll recap it all here once again. So, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your Saturday.